All right, Pop Pop. When did you first begin to notice the effects of the Great Depression? How old were you?
11 years old. The depression that I remember is from around 1932.
Hmm.
There were bread lines on the people. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people were hungry. They had to go to food banks and all in order to get food. People was selling they would take any kind of work in order to get some money because factories had closed, the banks had closed. It was a really serious
Yeah.
situation. People tried to take their money out of the bank, and the banks shut down the banks because people were taking all the money out.
Yeah.
So they have had some federal intervention to get it straightened out before people had confidence in putting money in the bank and leaving it there instead of trying to take it all out.
Yeah. Um, what was the biggest adjustment you had to make?
Well, at 11 years old, my father continued to work. My father was never out of work.
Hmm.
So even though we had 7 children in the house, we didn't suffer like other people because my father continued to work. He still had a job. Other people that were out of work, that was a different problem.
Okay. How prevalent were the effects of the Great Depression where you lived, like in your town?
Well, when FDR became president, he outlined a lot of federal projects like the CCC, the Peace Corps, the NRA, the TVA, all these alphabetical
Yeah, yeah.
organizations. And they created work, but the government was paying for the work. Well, of course, that couldn't continue indefinitely. People had to get back to the private sector where they would have somebody else paying the money because there wasn't that much money coming into the government, but they keep trying to enlarge all these organizations. Eventually, it had to come to a standstill.
Hmm.
The NRA and the FCC, they would take young people, send them off with the CCC, working in forests, cutting down trees, things like that, anything to give them an occupation.
Yeah. This kind of touched on the same subject, but how did the New Deal change your way of life, you personally, or your family?
It didn't affect me too much because, I was still in school.
Yeah.
I didn't graduate from high school until 1939. So by that time, a lot of the depression had started to wear away. So as I was never that affected that much by it.
Okay. What were you doing in your life before World War II?
After I graduated, I got a job working as an office boy. That's a silly term to use, but that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Doing errands for this company, like taking the mail, delivering it to people that needed it inside the building and things like that.
Yeah.
And I was working like that. That's when Pearl Harbor happened.
Okay. What was your attitude toward World War II before and after Pearl Harbor?
Well, there was a completely different atmosphere at that time. They called it the Greatest Generation.
Yeah.
When we were attacked by Pearl Harbor, everybody that wasn't, already signed up for the draft and all this here. They did have a draft at that time where you had to get your Army physical, and if you were accepted, you had 2 weeks to settle your business and go into the Army. But an awful lot of people enlisted. Like my brother, I had 3 brothers. All 3 brothers got into the Army and the Navy also. So 4 brothers in the family, and we were all away in the service at the one time.
Wow.
And we were all gung-ho for the war because this was our country and people don't do things like that with Pearl Harbor and attacked us.
Yeah. Did you join the Army or any
No,
sort of military?
I was drafted. The
You were
reason I
drafted?
was drafted, since I wear glasses, unless you had perfect eyesight, you might have had a hard time and I would have preferred to go into the Navy, but since I wore glasses and your eyesight was poor, I waited till be drafted, which was no problem because when I went to the Army to be drafted out in Newark, New Jersey, Frank Sinatra was also there with me the same day being tested.
Really?
He got away because he had flat feet. But I was accepted on August 14th, 1942, accepted, and on August 28th, I was sent away to the Army to Fort Dix.
Okay. Did you know anybody personally that fought in World War II?
Yes,
Your brothers?
my brother died from injuries suffered in a naval battle off Guadalcanal. That was in 1943. But he got burns and stuff that affected his kidneys, and eventually he died from kidney problem. I knew several of my personal friends were also killed in the war. So it's not a case that I didn't know anybody.
Oh, yeah. Did you meet any new people because of the war that you are now or were close to?
Well, yes. By the time a lot of them right now are dead.
Yeah.
So it's the ones that I was familiar with. They're no longer living. But I did make friends in Australia and other places where I had visited in the Army. But as I say, with the elapse of time, you eventually lose contact with these people.
Yeah. And last question, what was the general attitude toward a war in Europe, and were people scared?
Well, I think they were scared. They were concerned and all that there. But basically, you're talking about the war in Europe. I was sent to the Pacific theater of operations.
Okay.
I went to Australia where
Yeah.
we had to contend with the Japanese. The people, they all liked it, and they saw eventually after Germany went to war with Italy, they got involved with an awful lot of the men, and they lost a lot of their army in Russia because, they were just killing one another, millions of people right and left over there. And eventually, we started to get all our manufacturing together, turning out bombers and ships and things in this country. And we so overwhelmed them, with the goods that we produced, that the war went quite well after that. It was still quite a struggle. The Battle of the Bulge in Europe, for one thing.
Yeah.
We thought everything was going. Also, the Germans started, pushing back, and it was a little scare for a while. But eventually, with General Patton and Omar Bradley, they covered that and they wiped out the Germans. And then we teamed up with Russia to corner Hitler and all. Eventually, he committed suicide.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for your time, and I gladly appreciate this.
Okay.